Hello and welcome to the Chinksy Sports presents the Premier League show, powered by Chinksy Media. Find us on all digital streaming platforms including Amazon, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We are back again for episode 35, hashtag what paper are you reading from? Yazimiase. What paper are you reading from? Right, before we go into last weekend's results and this weekend's upcoming, albeit reduced fixture list due to the FA Cup semi-finals and subsequent postponements, I want to congratulate Bayer Leverkusen for winning their first ever Bundesliga last Sunday and ending Bayern Munich's 11-year winning streak. They're also on track to go an entire season unbeaten, although I'm sure Borussia Dortmund will be going all out to scupper their hopes tomorrow. Anyways, without any further ado, we go straight into the first match of last weekend, which was the game between Newcastle United and Tottenham Hotspur, which ended 4-0 to the home side. A brace from Newcastle compounded Tottenham's woes as the Lily Whites were obliterated on Tyneside for the second year running following their 6-1 defeat there last season. Swedish sensation Alexander Isak opened the scoring after Spurs' cavalier attacking approach left them found wanting. A wretched Pedro Porro blind back pass straight into the path of Anthony Gordon, who incidentally had already set up Isak for Newcastle's first just 2 minutes prior, was ruthlessly punished by the England international, who stands a great chance of being selected for the Euro 2024 squad, especially if he continues this rich vein of form. The game was ended as a contest after a simple through ball from Bruno Guimaraes left Alexander Isak bearing down on goal from the halfway line, and even the lightning-quick Mickey van der Ven couldn't catch the Swede. A late Fabian Schär header from a corner added salt to an already infected Spurs wound. It was clear that the raucous atmosphere had clearly rattled Spurs as a whole, especially Van der Ven, who had an afternoon to forget. Next up for Spurs is Arsenal at home next Sunday afternoon. The next fixture was the Midlands derby between Nottingham Forest and Wolverhampton Wanderers, which ended 2 apiece. Wolves took the lead after the returning Matheus Cunha, who was making his first start in almost 2 months, weaved his way in between Ryan Yates and Andrew Omobamidele to bury the ball past Matt Sells, who since January has deposed USA number 1 Matt Turner, a summer buy from Arsenal. Former Wolves star Morgan Gibbs-White, who ironically left the club because of a lack of game time from the current Nottingham Forest manager Nuno Espirito Santo, equalised by headed in from a corner. Forest took the lead after the ball broke to Danilo Pereira in the box after a spirited run from Gibbs-White, who had been Forest's biggest thorn in Wolves' nest all game. Wolves equalised after Matheus Cunha pounced on scrappy Forest defending, ensuing a corner from Pablo Sarabia. Despite this draw, Gary O'Neill's Wolves side have now gone a whopping 5 games without a win in all competitions. What paper are you reading from? The next fixture was the game between Brentford and Sheffield United, which ended 2-0 to Brentford. That was a correct score from me. Brentford secured their first win in 9 Premier League matches to steer themselves 7 points away from the relegation zone, in spite of drop talisman Ivan Toney goalless in his last 8 fixtures, taking no part whatsoever in this match. After a goalless first half of football, Brentford took the lead after the hour mark, when the tightly marked Brian Mbeumo intended to play a 1-2 with Mikkel Damsgaard, whose subsequent lunge-busting surge forward led him into the Blades box before his shot deflected in off Oli Arblaster and beyond the stricken Ivo Gribic in the Sheffield United goal. In added time, Nigeria international the substitute Frank Onyeka, who'd only been on the pitch a matter of minutes, latched onto a Kevin Shade flick-on to score his first goal for Brentford and the second of the game to secure a routine 2-0 win for the Bees. Prior to the match, Chris Wilder's Sheffield United side had been on a run which had seen them lose just once in their last 4 outings. What paper are you reading from? Manchester City against Luton Town ended 5-1 to the home side. Manchester City secured a comprehensive 5-1 victory over Luton at the Etihad, which remarkably was their 13th goal against the Hatters this season. It took just a mere 2 minutes for Erling Haaland to open the scoring after his wayward strike catapulted in off Daiki Hashioka, who had endured a baptism of fire since moving to the Premier League, and into the back of Thomas Kaminski's net. City clearly had an eye on their midweek Champions League quarter-final second leg against Spanish giants Real Madrid, rung in the changes for this one with the likes of Mateus Nunes, Mateo Kovacic and Rico Lewis getting rare starts, with the likes of Sergi Gomez and Oscar Bob also getting game time coming off the bench. Surprisingly, it took Guardiola's side over an hour to score their second goal of the game, which subsequently stopped the game as a contest after a tremendously struck half volley from Mateo Kovacic rooted Kaminski. Jeremy Doku, who had terrorised Luton's white ringback Frank Oyedema all game, tore him apart for this one. The foul for the penalty, with which Erling Haaland coolly converted, and 2, his goal which made the scores 4-1. After Ross Barkley had made the scores 3-1 after jinking the ball in onto his left foot following a poor touch from Mateus Nunes inside the City box. A 93rd minute goal from Josko Vardio on his weaker right foot for his second in 2 Manchester City games added gloss to an already hefty scoreline and denied me a correct score as the game ended 5-1. The next fixture was between Burnley and Brighton Hove Albion. That was another correct score from me. I predicted 1-1 draw. A side who have won just once in their last 15 games in all competitions prior to this match, Burnley, were pitted up against Brighton, who have a mere 2 wins from 9. So this was probably, predictably, a draw, given that Brighton had drawn a league high of 10 games prior to the match and Burnley have drawn 3 of their last 5 Premier League matches. Burnley took the lead after young Brighton midfielder Carlos Baleba criminally undercooked back pass towards Bart Verbruggen, who usually jostles with goalkeeping rival Jason Steele for a starting berth on a weekly basis, was pounced upon by Burnley captain Josh Brownhill. Verbruggen, despite getting to the ball first, had his clearance ricochet in off Brownhill's left leg. Muric in the Burnley goal conceded a goal not too dissimilar against Everton the previous week. Speaking of Muric, a shambolic failure to stop a simple back pass from Norway international Sander Berge as the ball rolled under his foot and into the back of the Burnley net, gifted Brighton a point and probably put pay to the Clarets' faint hopes of Premier League survival. In the evening kickoff between Bournemouth and Manchester United, that game ended 2-2. It took just 16 minutes for goal-hungry striker Dominic Solanke to open the scoring for Bournemouth to bag his 17th Premier League goal of the season. The former Liverpool and Chelsea star pounced on a Marcus Senesi through ball following a poor touch from Alejandro Garnacho, which managed to squirm its way into Solanke's path, especially after Willy Cambuala lost his footing at the crucial moment. For all of Bournemouth's superior football, creation of chances and just general dominance of the match, Manchester United equalised against a run of play after club captain Bruno Fernandes pounced on Ilya Zaberni's failure to clear and Garnacho attempted cutback. In the 36th minute, Justin Kluivert weaved his way inwards from the left wing to put the Cherries back ahead as he cut in and shot beyond Andre Onana as they led 2-1 at half-time, Bournemouth that is. In the second half, United equalised from the penalty spot after Kobbie Maino's shot hit Ryan Christie then came off of Adam Smith's arm. Harsh as it was, almost inevitable, the referee pointed straight to the spot, and Bruno Fernandes did not pass up the opportunity to score his second of the game as the scoreline ended 2 apiece. Right, the first of Sunday's fixtures was the game between West Ham United and Fulham. Another correct score for me as the game ended 2-0 to Fulham. An impressive Fulham took all of the spoils against an informed West Ham side who prior to the game had lost just once in their last 7 league matches. Fulham took the lead after a terrible clearance from Konstantinos Mavropanos fell straight into the path of Andreas Pereira, who bagged the first of his 2 goals to give Fulham all 3 points. West Ham looked sluggish throughout and were clearly more concerned about their Europa League quarter-final second leg with Bayer Leverkusen, which they lost. The second game on Sunday was the game at Anfield between Liverpool and Crystal Palace, which ended 1-0 to Palace. A 14th minute goal from Crystal Palace wizard Eberechi Eze was enough to secure all 3 points at Anfield, a place where Liverpool hadn't lost a league game in 18 months. Liverpool lost this game through a combination of missing several gilt-edged chances from Endo, Mo Salah, Darwin Núñez, Diogo Jota, Curtis Jones and Luis Diaz, to great goalkeeper from Dean Henderson and some fantastic last-ditch defending from the likes of Joachim Andersen and company. Title-chasing Liverpool have been out of sorts in recent weeks and have just 2 wins from their last 6 in all competitions. Following that game was the game at the Emirates Stadium between Arsenal and Aston Villa, which ended 2-0 to Aston Villa. In a game of 2 halves, Arsenal went into this game knowing that a victory would propel them back to the top of the Premier League in spite of Manchester City's victory and Liverpool's shock defeat at home to Crystal Palace earlier on in the day. However, despite dominating possession in the first half in terms of possession and chances created, the scores were 0-0 at half-time. A glaring first half miss from Leandro Trossard with the goal gaping was a moment to forget for both the Belgian and Arsenal as a whole. The second half, though, was a different story completely after they were punished for their profligacy. Arsenal, that is. Arsenal's chances of being caught on a break became exponentially greater as the game wore on and became precariously poised, something akin to a European knockout tie, especially after the tactical substitution in which Leon Bailey replaced the ineffective Moussa Diaby, brought on to exploit the spaces left by Arsenal's fullbacks. 2 late goals from Leon Bailey and Ollie Watkins in the last 10 minutes of a second half in which Arsenal did not look like scoring in proved the point. Villa's goal scorers Leon Bailey and Ollie Watkins, who now has 19 Premier League goals, are 2 of the most devastating players in the league with open grass to run into. All in all, Aston Villa were definitely well worth their weight in gold for the win as the title race took yet another twist. The last game of last game week was on Monday in a match between Chelsea and Everton that ended 6-0 to Chelsea. A Cole Palmer masterclass took Chelsea up to 9th place, just 3 points off of 6th placed Newcastle United with a game in hand against Tottenham Hotspur still to play. Palmer scored the first of his 30-minute first half hat-trick after nutmegging Jared Branthwaite and playing a 1-2 with Nicholas Jackson. His second came after a Jordan Pickford clearance fell straight into his path for him to head into an unguarded net. His hat-trick goal was a right-footed strike which looped into the back of the net following another gift from Pickford. Chelsea went into the break 4 goals to the good after Nicholas Jackson's turn and shot from a Marc Cucurella cross left Pickford stricken and hopeless in the Everton goal. The game was overshadowed by an argument between Noni Madueke and Nicholas Jackson over who should take the penalty, when in actuality Cole Palmer is the designated penalty taker for the club. So it will come as little surprise to hear that Palmer did eventually score the resulting penalty. A further goal from academy graduate Alfie Gilchrist made it 6-0 to cap off an outstanding display from Maurizio Pochettino's side. Chelsea have now lost just once in their last 12 games in all competitions. However, they face FA Cup holders Manchester City this afternoon. A recap of last week, I would say it was a week full of shocks, most notably the manner of Spurs' capitulation against Newcastle, as well as title contenders Arsenal and Liverpool succumbing and faltering with their respective home defeats, which have now handed the initiative and the impetus to favourites and holders Manchester City, who now have the knowledge that a perfect end to the season, winning their remaining 6 fixtures, will secure them an unprecedented 4th successive league title. What paper are you reading from? Despite all of the shocks, I still managed to get a respectable 6 correct results out of 10. I guess I read that other paper too. And my best total of 3 correct scores out of 10. I guess I read that out of paper. As I correctly predicted, Fulham's 2-0 win at West Ham, Brentford's 2-0 win against Sheffield United, and Burnley's 1-1 draw with an out-of-sorts Brighton side. Frustratingly though, I was minutes away from correctly predicting Manchester City beating Luton Town 4-1, but thanks to Josko Gvardiol's 93rd minute goal, the game ended 5-1 instead. This week, there will be 3 less fixtures to predict, so let's see if I can get all 7 correct. You can keep tabs of my predictions in the community tab, which will be updated after every match has ended. The first fixture of this weekend is between Luton Town and Brentford at 3 o'clock, a crucial day for Luton Town, who know that anything but a win could leave them with a thankless task of needing a minimum of 2 wins from the remaining 4 games to stand any chance of survival. Luton, with just 1 win in their last 13, come up against a Brentford side who had themselves just arrested a poor run of form, which saw them win for the first time in 9 league games. I've gone for a 3-1 away win for Brentford though, especially with the injuries that Luton have to some of their key players. The next game is between Sheffield United and Burnley. I've gone 2-0 to Burnley. The battle between the bottom 2 sees 20th placed Sheffield United take on 19th placed Burnley at Bramall Lane. The bottom placed Blades need at least 4 wins from the remaining 6 matches just to get out of the drop zone, and that isn't going to happen. Burnley have improved of recent with just 1 defeat in their last 6 matches, but I think they'll win this one 2-0 as I mentioned, to keep their faint hopes of survival alive for another week at least. The next game is the evening kickoff at Molineux between Wolverhampton Wanderers and Arsenal. Mid-table Wolves' winless run stretches to 5 matches in all competitions, and they take on a title-chasing Arsenal side winless in their last 3 in all competitions, having crashed out of the Champions League at the hands of Bayern Munich on Wednesday evening. Arsenal have 5 straight wins against Wolves and will need to make it 6 to go back to the top of the Premier League for at least 24 hours. Although I don't think it will be easy, I think they will win this one, and my prediction is 2-0 to Arsenal. The game between Everton and Nottingham Forest is a huge relegation 6-pointer, which pits Everton, who have just 1 win in 15 Premier League matches, against Nottingham Forest, who despite this are 1 place and 1 point below them in the league, having played a game less. I can't help but feel that the winner of this one will go some way to securing their survival by moving further away from the dreaded drop zone. That being said though, I think this will end up in a 1-1 stalemate. The game between Crystal Palace and West Ham United on Sunday sees mid-table Crystal Palace go into this game buoyed by their morale-boosting win at Anfield last Sunday, which was remarkably only their first win in 6 Premier League matches and only their second in 10. West Ham, having been eliminated from the Europa League by unbeaten Bundesliga champions Bayer Leverkusen on Thursday, still have realistic aspirations of finishing in the top 7 this season and qualifying for Europe. They currently lie in 8th place with just 5 games to play. To be honest, I think this will see both cancel one another out, and I think it's going to be another 1-1 draw. The game between Aston Villa and Bournemouth sees Europa Conference League semi-finalists Aston Villa, who would want to make the most of Spurs not playing today by extending the gap between the two sides to 6 points in the race for the top 4 and subsequent Champions League qualification. They come up against an informed Bournemouth side who have nothing to play for, albeit dangerous with the likes of Dom Solanke hungry for goals. Speaking of goals, I think there'll be plenty here, except I think the majority will be for Villa in a 3-1 win. Right, for the last game of the weekend, sees the biggest one of the weekend for me. The most exciting and pulsatingly looking match between Fulham and Liverpool. This match for me is definitely the game of the weekend. Fulham have already endured heartache against Liverpool on 2 separate occasions this season. They did lose 4-3 at Anfield just last December, despite actually winning 3-2 with just 3 minutes to play. And Liverpool also overcame them in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup in January en route to lifting the trophy. Fulham have already proved on a number of occasions that they have it in them to upset the top sides, having already beaten the likes of Arsenal, Manchester United and Tottenham, and they'll be looking to add Liverpool, who have just 1 win from the last 4 in all competitions, to that growing casualty list. However, that being said, I think Liverpool will just about edge what I think will be another high-scoring game between these two sides, 3-2 to Liverpool. So, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. And we'll be back again to read from another newspaper next Tuesday or Wednesday. Check the community tab for updates. And don't forget to stream on the digital platforms. You know what I mean? Bow.